what I really wanted to talk about was time, really, time and space. Because I think a lot of this self, this like the characterization of the individuality is built on time. So when you're asleep, it's like nothing is there. The whole thing is, let's say, dormant or something. But then when you wake up, there's a feeling that you're waking up today from a yesterday, and that it's a you who's coming up now, today, through thought, let's say, and through the head. And that's really kind of the establishment, is that the head uses time as a way to establish itself, sort of put itself in a timeline. That establishment, there's a sense that that establishment is quite true, if not questioned. Yeah, the establishment really, there's a sense of truth to that establishment when it's not questioned or inquired into, let's say. So time comes up, yeah, as soon as you're waking up this morning from a last night and you're moving into it today. Yeah. And then there's all this association when the head comes up of what happened yesterday, so memory, and then projection off into what's going to happen today. But all of this is done in an establishment of a sense of individuality now, in the sense of feeling that there's a you now who's moving through this space, this thing, and moving through space in time. Yeah. So this reifies a lot this sense of individuality, and not good or bad. I mean, but let's see it. Yes, because otherwise you are under the guise of time, and time would come again with age. Yes, and then when there's an age, there's a seeming idea that some shit you can do and some shit you can't do, or you should be at a certain place in your life because of the time that's been spent here, or all of this shit comes with time. It's a real, it's an anchor for that sense of individuality. And I feel if we don't see the influence of time, we don't see the influence that the sense of individuality is having on creating suffering, essentially, yeah. Because it doesn't matter how much time is established by the head, it doesn't make it so. Yeah. There is no self in the center of that. There's nothing there which is experiencing time. So time becomes an idea, a manufactured thing from the mental state. But it really does move through timelessness. And then of course time and space come together a lot in this conversation. And the spaciousness, I find, it comes a lot through the senses. So I'm seeing something over there, which would imply that there's a something here. Yeah, so there's a spaciousness or a perception of space between what's here and what's there. But what's really happening is by seeing that, it's establishing the seership of this body. And that creates space, yeah. So the space and the time come up together. And the space is reified, obviously, by the senses. There's sound over there, so there's a listener or a hearer here, you see. But this is all established after what you are. This is a manufactured after what is so. So it arises out of the space. There's a spaciousness which pervades the sense of space between me and the computer, or me and the wall, or whatever, you see. You are the space before the sense of space, or the perception of space. Yeah. And then it's the same with time. This idea of time, which comes through thought. Yes, there was a yesterday, and you can see it nice in the morning, because when you're asleep, the whole thing is kaput. Yeah, but when the head wakes up, up comes the thinking, and then there's time. There's yesterday, there's today, there's tomorrow. These are ideas. They don't inherently exist. They don't have existence. They arise through existence, or let's say from existence, or whatever you want to say. But the time is idea. Yes? The age of the body is an idea. These are all concepts, they're ideas. And this is the thing, all these ideas arise, and then there's a sense that they're arising to a you in time. Yes? So I have this thought, and then this thought, and this thought. So there's like a timeline drawn out between that. Yes? And then if you are taking yourself to be those concepts, meaning that those thoughts which are arising to you, you're getting dragged through time. And a lot of like depression in my experience has drawn from this. Because I did shit, or shit was done to me, yes? And now time, head is using memory, time, to establish those ideas right now, and now I feel like shit for stuff that happened 15 years ago. This is the establishment of time. You see? Then the thing is when you inquire into these things, a lot of people think that it stops. That is a big misunderstanding, I feel. I feel that even when it comes to things like depression or mental health, in the effects of the verb of selfing, as Paul Hederman would say, or thinking, yeah, they diminish. But a lot of the content of what's happening in the mental doesn't change that much. It's that you're disentangled from it, because you see that the effect of time is happening as a mental movement that you're not doing. Yeah. Because it goes back to what we said, there's no self at the center of this. There's no thing at the center of all of this movement. It's a bunch of movement. But see, now the head establishes, it uses time. So there's a memory of something that happened or something you did, and that's established now as a memory. And what seemingly did that was me. You see? All these, when time arises in the head, it arises to a sense of you. We have to at least tell the truth. There's a feeling that it's arising to you. There is a sense of that. But the sense doesn't establish that there's a you. It's a sense. There's a sense of time, of past, let's say whatever we call present, and then a sense that there's going to be a movement forward. Yes? These senses are arising, but it doesn't make it so that they're arising to a you. The idea of you is part of the sense of time. I was, I am, and I will be. These are more concepts associated, entangled with the manufacturing of time that comes up with the idea of you. And if you're bonded to the idea of you, you are bonded to that movement of time. And that for many of us makes become, I want to get out of this and I want to get into a better this. And it drags you. You get dragged around by this. So then when it comes to depression, in my experience, I was depressed because of all these things, yeah? And then that shit comes up and now I'm depressed. And then the fucking killer is I'm going to keep being depressed. See, time, was, am, gonna keep being. The fucking thing that destroys us is the idea I'm gonna keep being depressed. Because if that was so, yes, you would want out of that feeling. I'm going to be depressed. I'm never going to get out of this. Then suicide becomes a real option. Yeah? Because if that's true, if I'm never going to get out of this, these feelings and ideas and how dark they are, if I'm never going to get out of them, then I should just end this situation now by ending the body, you see? Non-duality kicks in, and helps that a lot, because the main idea is you're not the body in the first place. So all this establishment of time, I did this shit, that's why I'm terrible now and I'm going to be terrible in the future, that is only entangled with the body, which you're not. Which you're not, yeah. So it's not that you're not going to become a body in the future. I was a body in the past. I feel like a body now, but I'm not going to be one in the future because I'm going to work really hard. That's not the message here. The message is you've never been a body in the past. You're not a body now, and you're not going to be a body in the future. You see? So what is entangled with this idea of I was, I am, and I'm going to be, or I'm going to unbecome? You are not that movement, yeah? Because that's all referring to the body, time and body. Body and space. Yeah? I was here, now I'm here, and I'm going to get here. Space. When, past, now, future, time. Those things arise together. It's all arising conceptually as the head. Yeah. So are we going to change it? No, just see it. Once you see it, you can see that you're not it because you're seeing it. And what does it arise in? Now, presence. Yeah. Or let's say non-presence or whatever, yeah. It's like we can only use so many words to describe that, but I'd much rather describe what we're not, because what we're not is what ends up killing us or making us want to kill ourselves or make us want to drink or drug or to be depressed, super anxious. It's this idea of time, you see? And it arises with that sense of individuality. There is a sense of individuality, but it doesn't make true the idea of being an individual. There is no individual. So looking at time is important because time establishes the sense of individuality really strongly. Yeah. Was, am, will be. And these are all these, the head gets tied to this shit. And it's also, I come back to that idea that's very important in my experience of depression gets tied to this fucking idea of time. Things happened to me or I did stuff. I was depressed. I feel like shit now. And therefore, I'm going to feel like shit in the future, yeah? That seems very true to the head. And if we're entangled with the head, I don't see how I'm going to get out of that if I'm entangled with the idea of that, yeah? I'm not going to think my way out of that because the thinking is where the source, that's where the root is. That's where it's coming from the same interpretation center, you see? This is the thing with the 12 steps. The 12 steps in AA, my experience, is not saying we're going to fix the head. No, we're losing faith in self because we see that it's a failed system. Yeah. It's just not, it doesn't operate. It operates in this idea of time and space. And for many of us, that's super uncomfortable. Am I going to change that? As that? You can't change the head from the head. You see? The head is the problem. And you're identified as the thinking. The thinking is the problem. You're not going to think yourself out of the problem as the problem. You're not going to get out of past, present, future, time and space as time and space. You can't. The head cannot get out of time and space. It's made and it's manufacturing time and space. That's what it does. There's nothing wrong with it, but you're not it. But then many of us try to get out of it as time and space, and that's not what happens. You negate the arising of time and space, and then there you are, free right now, you see? Before time and space. Before. And that's ever present. You're not going to get there in the future. Any idea of I'm going to get there in the future, or I'm not going to be depressed in the future, that's time. That's the head using time to tell you you're going to get out of time, and it's not going to work. You see? I get fired up about that stuff because I spent fucking years under this weight of depression. Yeah? And this idea that I'm either going to be depressed forever or I'm not going to be depressed at some point in the future if I work hard enough. And it doesn't work because the system that says if I work hard enough is the same system that's manufacturing depression in the first place. And that uses time as a way to say I'm not going to be depressed in the future, or I'm going to get out of it, or fucking I'm going to be depressed forever, which is the worst one. Yeah. So I don't know. Talk about it, and then you see it, and then you can negate it. Yeah. And then, well, what am I if I'm not that? Great. Yeah. See that. Because that's arising, time and space are arising in something that seems to be an ever-present spaciousness. Yeah. And then when you disentangle from it, you see it, you watch it manufacture, especially when you wake up. I have to do all this shit. Yesterday I did this and this and this, and I have to do this and this and this today. Yeah. The head has you running away from what you did yesterday and trying to run into or towards what you're going to do today, and you feel anxious all the time because the head is projecting back and projecting forward, and none of it really fucking makes sense because none of it's happening, and it's all being distorted by the interpretation of your own head. Yeah. So a lot of people are, I'm working towards this, but we have no idea what we're working towards because it's all just projection ideas. It's not a thing. There's no. It's just constant projection. And we got to see it because the established or the manufacturing of time by the mental system is really what has us bound to the sense of being a thing now. It's past and future that have us bound to our thingness, the idea of thingness in the now, and you're not that.